Guys, I don't know if I like this one. Metroid Zero Mission, a remake of the original game on the NES in 1986, this time on the Game Boy Advance, almost 20 years later, which makes the original Metroid at this point almost 40 years old. And the remake itself is like 21 years old. That's wild. The remake itself is classic. A classic remake of a classic game. Time, man. I have a lot of love for Metroid Fusion. I wrote a whole love letter about it. Feel free to watch that if you have time. There's nostalgia there, and I really like the flow and the vibe of the game. I have none of that for Metroid Zero Mission, and this was truly my going in blind experience with absolutely zero baggage. But in saying that, this game seems to be highly regarded in the Metroid world. Not everyone says it's their favorite, but some do, and for some people it comes close. It's consistently ranked higher than Metroid Fusion, the other Metroid on Game Boy Advance, and I just have to say, why? I mean, I think I could see why depending on what you're looking for, but I think my experience with this game was different than most. Most people seem to think that Metroid Zero Mission is an easier, quicker, and overall better experience than Metroid Fusion. I thought this was more difficult than Metroid Fusion, in some areas considerably so. It took me longer to beat than Metroid Fusion, and I thought Metroid Fusion was a better game. And after I beat it, I didn't quite get it, but after sleeping on it, I think I do. I think I know why the community likes this game more than I do, and why I prefer the other game in, I guess you could say, the Game Boy Advance Duo. You'll probably get hints at what I'm leaning towards throughout this video, but long story short, we're both right, just in different ways. So Metroid Zero Mission starts off with some quick cutscenes and then you're just off, but apparently there's a plot. So essentially you're sent to the planet Zebes because these space pirates have a base there and have been sending these Metroid creatures that attach to organisms that drain their life force. These pirates want to use them as sort of bioweapons, and the Federation can't have that, so you're off. For a Game Boy game, there's a decent amount of freedom this game gives you. There tends to be points of interest on the map, but no reason as to why you're going there. You go into the hands of these birdmen. Look, I know they're called Chozo, but they're just birdmen. And then you go to another, normally for some sort of power-up. The way to get there may be a little more complicated than it appears, but essentially you're just going to a dot on a map. The Metroid formula is here, it's alive, it's well, and that's something good to say about it. You start with a very poor starting blaster, but this was similar to the blaster in OG Metroid, so I get why they did it, but it certainly evolves over time, so no big deal. This would be a good time to bring in the remake/reboot factor of the game. I wouldn't necessarily call this a faithful remake, but it's not a non-faithful one either. It's certainly an improved and expanded version that really replaces the original game, but at the same time, in my opinion, is held back by the bones of that original game, at least until the end. If you know, you know. But for the sake of this video, we won't be comparing this game to its original release too much. It'll just be viewed as its own game, which is probably why I'm a little more hard on it. I will be bringing up Metroid Fusion a bit though, because it was really on the top of my mind while playing and making most of this. Most of the locations kind of look the same and just kind of chug along. You find secrets, you defeat a few bosses, like 2 while exploring, and they're pretty easy. The Kraid fight was fun, but I don't know, it was really simple. The Ridley fight was cool, but same thing. I think I did it on the first try. Now, I mentioned that this game was harder than I thought Fusion was, and we'll get into that, but the longer part was I did have a hard time exploring this world. For you Metroid heads out there, I'm not very good at shine sparking or whatever it is, and it's not for lack of trying. I don't know, I really didn't want to look up guides or anything, so I found myself wandering a little more than I would have wanted to, especially in the second half of the game. As mentioned before, for me, it's hard to talk about this game without bringing up Fusion. I played it just before this one, which I think is appropriate because they're only separated by 2 years, and they're on the same platform. Metroid Fusion has this dark, brooding atmosphere, tons of biomes, color palettes that lean into darker colors, but not exclusively. A mysterious story that really unfolds as you play, an enemy that has taken your form and stalks you, and some of the more memorable boss battles I've had in any 2D game. You're going to places for reasons. You're either going to investigate something or blow something up or defeat an enemy or find something to further the story, and by comparison, Metroid Zero Mission has kind of none of this. You're pointed in directions and just told to go, or not, which can be very cool and open-ended. It's definitely possible to beat this game in a way not intended by developers, but I don't know, I think I need a little more something to keep me going. I don't need the best story, but I need a little something. I think of Metroid Fusion like a margarita. It has tequila, lime, crushed ice, the salt on the rim. Metroid Zero Mission is just tequila to me, which is fine. There's a lot of people that can enjoy tequila and maybe use it in a way that I don't, or maybe they don't like the margarita, but I like the margarita. Give me a little salt on that rim. Honestly, by the time I got to Mother Brain, I was tapped out. This is where the difficulty spike begins. I found that boss fight to be very hard, out of nowhere, and I really wasn't engaged with it. Screw these cannons that just shoot you into the lava. It's such a chore to get out of. Somehow, after many attempts, the time I really wasn't trying and was just kind of like, screw it, I ended up beating it. And frankly, I was overjoyed it was over. And just like in the original game, you beat Mother Brain, you escape in a race against time, credits roll. Wait, what? What happens next is very interesting. You are then shot down and stranded on these ruins, and you have to reclaim your suit. Everything you've learned up to this point is thrown out the window and replaced with this 2D stealth section in your Zero suit. None of this was in the original game, and that's probably why I liked it so much. You take hits hard, and you can't take down these enemies, only freeze them. Now we're talking. Stealth in games in general is tricky, especially in a 2D game, but this was done very well. If you're found, you have two choices, run or hide. There is no fight. This really expands on the ideas attempted in Metroid Fusion, where you have these situations where you're being hunted down and you can't win in combat, so you have to use your head. Some areas you're not going to be able to pass if you're detected, and it's very easy to die in these sections. When you get it right, it feels so good. There were more than a few tense situations that I just barely made it out of alive to recharge and save. And the save rooms in general, the space pirates can get in there, so it really creates this sense of unease at all times. Eventually you make your way to this statue spirit thing, and this pretty creative boss fight ensues where you have to shoot this symbol that comes up, otherwise you shoot the mirror reflection of yourself and take damage. Once you do this 4 times, you get your suit but max upgraded, and then you go back through the areas you've been and just destroy all the enemies that were giving you a hard time. Honestly, this whole bit was the highlight of the entire game for me. It's so triumphant to essentially get revenge and freely explore this place you've been tiptoeing around, but now it's time to leave. You get to the topmost corner of the map and find Mecha Ridley, and a very easy final boss fight ensues that I beat on like the second try. This has nothing on Mother Brain. Ridley's death is set to blow up the entire station, and then another escape sequence begins where you have to get back to your ship before time runs out. Classic endgame stuff. You escape, fly away, just told mission accomplished, and then credits roll. A little anticlimactic, but I'll take it. So yeah, after all of that, I didn't like hate this game, but I didn't love it either. I think I'm contaminated because my first Metroid experience at all was Metroid Fusion, which its story at all and its atmosphere is a huge departure from almost the rest of the series, especially up until that point. I do find it interesting that my saving grace of this game was essentially supplemental content that wasn't in the original game. And maybe in saying that, I don't know if I would have liked the original game. Maybe I just need a little more with my Metroid, whether it's the story and atmosphere of Fusion, the different perspective of Prime, the spectacle and dread of Dread. This was just a little too bare bones for me. But for the people who really like playing with the Metroid formula and don't care about the other stuff, there's a lot here. This game is primed for speedrunning, trying new tactics in new areas, kind of poking and prodding the environment and seeing what you can get away with. It begs to be replayed. But for me, it was just a little lacking. I hovered on where to put this on the 5 feeling scale, and honestly, it's somewhere between meh and I liked it. If it didn't have the Zero Suit stuff at the end, it would probably be meh. But if I had to choose one, I guess I would go with I liked it. I think I was just expecting a little more from it, but it did its job, and honestly, it's a good baseline for people to get into the series. Considering it's a remake of a game from the 80s, it did hold up kind of well. But yeah, that's all for me. This is Gilley Monster. You know, all that YouTube stuff, like and subscribe. I got a South Park video coming out in a few days. I'm probably gonna play a different series for my next video game review. We also just do random videos. My upload times seem to be between Wednesday and Friday/Saturday. It just kind of worked out that way, so feel free to check back, see what's new, and I appreciate you. Thanks, guys.